Welcome to today's deep dive. I like to think of you as the learner, sitting right here with us today on May 2, 2026.
Yeah, glad to have you with us for this one.
Because today we're looking at something completely wild. So I want you to imagine waking up tomorrow and just being handed a brand new set of rules for your life.
Like a total reboot of society.
Exactly. Your bank account,
Yeah.
gone. Your house, it belongs to everyone now. You are strictly forbidden from ever celebrating your birthday again. And this is the big one, your family unit has been completely dissolved.
Right, your parents, your kids, your spouse, all of those biological ties just gone,
Oh, and you are told that this is paradise.
which is quite the pitch.
It really is. So the premise for today is, what would actually happen if you took the teachings of Jesus, Buddha, Lao Tzu, Plato, Karl Marx, and Mao Zedong?
Oh, wow, quite the mix.
Right. You throw all of them into a giant ideological blender, and you try to build a real-world society out of the resulting smoothie.
It is basically the ultimate social engineering thought experiment. And the blueprint we are looking at today is a fascinating 2013 text by an author named Xu Feng.
Yeah, detailing the 8 characteristics of the communist community.
Right, or what he calls the second home, created by Life Chanuan. Okay, let's unpack this blueprint for a modern utopian experiment.
Yeah, let's get into it. But before we do, we need to lay some ground rules for the learner.
Yes, very important, because this text touches on heavily political and philosophical ideologies. I mean, it spans everything from historical communist theory to utopian socialism and deep religious doctrine.
It covers a lot of ground.
It really does. So we want to be incredibly clear with you, the listener, that we are not taking sides here. We aren't endorsing these viewpoints, and we aren't condemning them either.
Exactly. We aren't here to judge if this is a brilliant utopian dream or a dystopian nightmare.
No, the goal is strictly to explore the fascinating mechanics and ideas proposed in the source material. Just a pure intellectual exercise.
We're popping the hood to look at the engine.
Right, looking at the how and the why. And to set the stage, by the time Xu Feng wrote this in 2013, he claimed this second home had been operating for nearly 4 years.
4 years, yeah.
And he frames it as the culmination of 2,000 years of human experiments with utopian communities. He says it's finally entering a stable and harmonious phase.
Which brings us to the first major structural pillar because, to understand any society, you really have to look at who is in charge and who owns what,
Look,
right?
absolutely. The structural foundation is everything.
So characteristic 1 says the community is guided by the way of nature or the way of the greatest creator. But it introduces this bizarre concept called holographic management,
Yes, holographic management.
which paradoxically means absolutely no management at all. Like there are no leaders, no offices, no hierarchy.
Right. And what's fascinating here is the metaphor he uses. If you take a holographic image and you shatter it, every tiny shard still contains the entire complete image.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so the idea is that every single person in the community embodies the entire management structure. Everyone is a manager and everyone is a master.
So it sounds like a completely decentralized, open source human co-op, like a Wikipedia page, but for physical, real-world living.
That's a great analogy, actually.
But, and here's my pushback, if everyone is a manager and there are absolutely no leaders, how does anything actually get done without total chaos?
Right. Who takes out the trash?
Exactly. A Wikipedia page doesn't have plumbing that backs up at 2 in the morning. Who decides who scrubs the toilets?
Well, the text relies on natural principles to govern behavior. And it does this by completely redesigning the economy of human motivation.
Okay, how so?
That brings us to characteristic 2. There is no private property and there's no money. Everything belongs to the community, and you enjoy what you need without extravagance.
So literally no personal belongings.
None. The theory relies on the premise that you can eliminate the friction of resource allocation by just completely destroying the concept of mine versus yours.
Okay, but how does eliminating property make a manager obsolete? Like, you still need someone to organize the labor, don't you?
Well, think about what a traditional manager actually does. A massive percentage of their job is just arbitrating disputes over scarce resources.
No, I see.
Right? Like who gets the budget, who gets the corner office, who gets the credit. They're basically just refereeing property disputes all day.
Wow, okay. Yeah, if there's no budget to fight over and no promotion to win, half the boss's job just vanishes.
Exactly. And characteristic 3 states that labor is based purely on ability and needs. No one is forced to do tasks beyond their capabilities.
So if you eliminate the scarcity, the traditional need for a top-down manager just naturally evaporates.
That's the claim, yes.
yeah.
If everyone's basic needs are unconditionally met, The existential dread of not having enough just disappears.
It's a fascinating theory.
Yeah.
You remove the competition, and supposedly natural cooperation just kicks in. But here's where it gets really interesting. If you successfully eliminate private property, it naturally leads to questioning the other things we fiercely claim ownership over.
Yes, the most intensely private possessions humans claim: our relationships and our family units.
Yeah. Characteristic 4, there is no marriage and no families in the second home.
They are totally uncompromising on this.
The text literally describes marriage and families as, let me get this right, breeding grounds for selfishness, sources of distress and pain, and the root causes of endless resource exploitation and waste.
Which is usually the exact point where historical utopian experiments hit a brick wall.
Oh, for sure.
But if we connect this to the bigger picture, Guofeng's logic here is incredibly internally consistent. Ask yourself, why do people hoard wealth? Why do they exploit resources?
Well, it's the classic defense, right? I'm just doing what I have to do to provide for my family.
Exactly. The family unit creates this fierce biological us versus them dynamic. The text argues that if you want to eradicate greed, you can't just ban money.
You have to ban the biological engine that drives the need for money.
Precisely. So under characteristic 5, the community steps in and provides literal cradle-to-grave care.
They provide all the food, clothing, shelter, transport, and healthcare.
Yep, the elderly are looked after by the collective, and the children are raised and educated entirely by the community. Parents and children no longer carry the burden of worrying about each other.
The biological family is just dissolved into the collective. But for you, the listener, I want you to imagine a life where you never celebrate your birthday or have a traditional family.
Because the text explicitly points out they don't do birthdays.
Right. And they completely avoid one-on-one romantic relationships. The text frames this as liberation from selfishness, but doesn't it run the risk of extreme emotional detachment?
That is the immediate, visceral reaction, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, if you don't have a partner and you don't have a family, aren't you just an emotionally detached drone?
Well, the argument isn't that love is eliminated, but rather that it's redistributed. The intense love you'd normally funnel exclusively into your spouse and kids is redirected outward. The community actually becomes the family. Freeing people from the anxiety of providing for helpless children or aging parents removes the primary driver of human greed.
Okay, so the goal is ultimate unity by erasing biological tribalism. But if you want everyone to be perfectly equal parts of this massive hologram, ideological ties have to be wiped clean too.
Yes, they do.
Which brings us to characteristics 6 and 7. I like to call this the ultimate reset button.
It really is. And this is where that massive ideological blender of historical and religious figures shows its unique flavor.
Because it's a massive paradox. The author says the community is inspired by the teachings of Jesus, Buddha, Marx, and Mao, but then they strictly ban all political activities and religious rituals.
No idol worship allowed.
None. They don't celebrate any holidays with political or religious connotations. Instead, the focus shifts entirely to protecting nature, insects, birds, and animals.
What's fascinating here is how brilliant and deliberate that substitution is.
But why ban the rituals of the very people you claim to be inspired by? That seems, I don't know, counterintuitive.
Because rituals are what cause societies to fracture. The core ethics of a philosopher like being kind or sharing resources, those universal concepts rarely cause wars.
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
Yeah, what causes wars? The rituals, the dogma, the flags, the anthems.
So by borrowing the ethics of Jesus and Marx, but strictly banning the rituals of Christianity and communism, they are trying to install a defense mechanism against tribalism.
Exactly. You cannot have a religious schism or a political rebellion if there's no specific dogma to disagree over.
You take the ethical software, but refuse to install the hardware that people usually fight over.
Perfectly put.
And they apply that exact same logic to a person's individual history. Under characteristic 7, which is absolute equality, the community erases your past.
It doesn't matter if you're a PhD or illiterate.
Right. Rich or poor, high-ranking official or commoner, scholar or shepherder, everyone simply becomes a laborer.
They strip away all external validation. Only the present moment is valued.
It's exactly like hitting the ultimate reset button on an RPG video game character.
Oh, that's a good way to look at it.
You drop all your previous stats, your loot, your backstory, and you just spawn into this world as a level 1 laborer. Your past achievements mean literally nothing.
Which prevents an intellectual or financial elite from reforming inside the utopia. The former CEO can't leverage his past credentials to build a power base.
Okay, so they have engineered away property disputes, biological tribalism, and ideological factions. But historically, even if a utopia achieves equality, it usually falls apart anyway.
Right, because human beings just get bored.
Yeah, the system gets stale, people form little cliques out of habit, and those cliques eventually become rival factions. How does the second home prevent this?
That brings us to characteristic 8, which is the antidote to stagnation. The community operates on the principle of least resistance and constant change.
Constant change.
Yeah, guided by maxims like keep the main, but change the others according to the situation, and Dharma sets no rules. It is ever-changing.
Okay, Dharma sets no rules, it is ever-changing. That sounds highly spiritual, but what does that actually look like for a person waking up in the community on a random Tuesday?
It looks like institutionalized flux. Your residence location, your work shifts, the personnel you work with, even your recreational games are in a state of constant rotation.
Wait, constantly?
Constantly.
Yeah.
It is explicitly designed so that no two people stay together for an extended period.
Oh man, I just try to map that onto my own life. Imagine your bedroom, your daily job, and your immediate friend group changing constantly. It sounds exhausting.
It does.
How do you build any sense of deep roots if your environment is literally designed to shift beneath your feet at all times?
Well, what's fascinating here is that the author uses a concept from physics to justify this. He says this constant novelty prevents the maximization of entropy.
Entropy being the gradual decline into disorder.
Yes. In sociology, entropy often manifests as stagnation. Think of a kaleidoscope. As long as it's turning, you get these beautiful interconnected patterns.
Oh, right.
But if you stop turning it, the glass pieces settle into the bottom. They lock together, they become rigid, and the dynamic pattern is lost. By keeping everyone perpetually adapting, it prevents the formation of cliques and warlordism.
So if people stay in the exact same job with the same 5 friends, they settle. And if they settle, they start carving out a little territory for themselves.
Exactly. They get bored and they start gossiping, which is why there are also strict rules against complaining, discussing others' privacy, and making comparisons.
Wow. It's forced neuroplasticity on a societal scale. You never get to go on autopilot.
You can't build a faction to overthrow the system if you never live with the same group long enough to plot it.
So what does this all mean? When you step back, the second home aims to create an idyllic ecological civilization. Everyone is supposedly happy, free, and blessed.
Yes. According to Feng, this is the secret to elevating life to celestial and Buddha realms.
But the method for achieving that paradise is the methodical removal of property, family, ideology, and stagnation. Almost everything we think of as foundational to human society.
It's a radical thought experiment. And for you, the learner, it really acts as a sharp mirror for our daily lives. Think about what drains you on a daily basis.
Oh, sure. The exhaustion of information overload.
Right. The immense stress of trying to provide for our families, navigating workplace hierarchies. The second home offers a radical look at what it takes to completely eliminate those modern anxieties.
A huge percentage of our daily energy is just spent managing the boundary between mine and yours.
It is. But that leaves us with a final lingering question today, something not explicitly answered in the text, but something we all have to wrestle with.
What's that?
If a community successfully engineers away all the friction of human existence, no property to fight over, no heartbreak from one-on-one romance, no grief over a family's struggles, no stagnation, does it actually elevate the human spirit to a higher realm of freedom? Or does the total absence of that friction cost us the very things that make us human in the first place?
Is a life without friction actually a life at all? That is a heavy, fascinating thought to chew on.
It really is.
Well, we hope this deep dive gave you some incredible new perspectives to mull over today. Thank you so much for joining us on this exploration, and we encourage you to keep questioning the structures of your own world. Until next time.